this is the feast of your heart. The feast of your heart rehearsed. Eating this bread, we break each curse. Drinking this cup, we do not thirst. So I'm going to reflect on the reading from today when Jesus talked about the bread of heaven. I want to give the crowd in today's reading credit. They've located Jesus, which is not always easy. They've gotten in the boats to follow him. They're asking what they need to do to perform the works of God, which isn't a great question because the works of God belong to God, but it's in the right zip code. They want the bread from heaven always. So often in the Bible, the people that Jesus talks to can't seem to figure out what he is talking about. Here, at least, they seem to know that there is something they should grasp, even if they haven't quite got a hold of it. They're asking the question that all of us ask: what do I have to do to get right with God? And the answer we want is something we can put on a to-do list, something we can cross off. And it doesn't work like that, we know that. We just have to believe in Jesus and live our lives letting that belief guide what we do. Now that's an old contrast we have had for a long time. What is more important, works or faith? As if you can have one without the other, as if they are on opposite ends of the spectrum. Jesus, in today's passage, makes it clear that faith is work. The crowd asks, what must we do to perform the works of God? And Jesus replies, this is the work of God, that you believe in him whom God sent. Now, to keep faith alive, it needs to be fed. But if you are only fed by the big Hollywood miracles, by manna and quails dropping from the sky, if you're fed by 5,000 people being fed with a few barley loaves and some fish, you're going to go a long time between meals. Jesus is asking the crowd to focus on the right thing. Not on their bellies, but on the true bread of heaven, which has a lot to do with loving your neighbor and loving God. So we need to train ourselves to see the opportunities to love and be loved, to accept and cherish and welcome and pursue all those moments when we can do something that is our own personal marker that says, this is my neighbor. This is my God. And this is me being loved by my neighbor and by God. Which is why we come to this communion table. Jesus asks us to do it in memory of him, to share and touch and taste the abundance of God. It's pretty amazing to me that I got an invitation to God's table. So that's why I struggle a bit with the pre-packaged communion pods. I love that everyone who wants to be at this table can come, comfortable that what they will consume is sterile and safe. It makes the table bigger when that is possible. But when I eat the bread that is in that pod, I don't taste the abundance of God. I taste better living through chemistry. So I've added those lemon blossoms as a choice for today. And if you want to have those be your bread of heaven for today, in today's sacrament of communion, give it a try. In the earliest church, they celebrated communion with a potluck supper. In 1 Corinthians chapter 11, Paul has to spell it out. And of course, because it's the church at Corinth, they're making a mess of it. He has to tell them, look, you're supposed to eat together. No one is supposed to go hungry. Don't show up early so that people who come on time have nothing to eat. Now, today's potluck can also be a communion meal. It can be a time when we show love for our neighbors and accept the love of our neighbors in the form of food. Last week, I invited you to share an experience when we were having communion of something you had to do when you did something hard and you did it anyways, relying on the love of God and the love of the neighbors to get you through. As people of faith, it is that kind of work that allows us to build our faith and taste the bread of heaven through egg and sausage casseroles or bread pudding or lemon blossoms or whatever else is waiting for us in there on the table. And through the stories of how we let our lives be changed by faith. It is a pretty great way to be fed.